Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Psychological Theatre. Okay, let's find a way to sit. We continue today our discussion. I haven't posted maybe for two weeks, maybe because of some stupidities of life, and today I'm back with this silence of the morning. The breeze has a soothing temperature. It's not too harsh, it's blowing very gently. The birds are enjoying the morning breakfast as the grass has been freshly cut. The ducks are also enjoying their morning bath in the pond. And finally, I'm able to put this video with you. If I remember correctly, last time I raised the question that it's really nice to check that in understanding psychological time, whether different things are going on in our mind which give us the impression of time. I don't know. If you have been with me in the last video, then you might remember that we were discussing that the mind also has a sense of time, and usually the happenings of mental events is what gives us this notion of mental time or psychological time. The psychological time could be the result of mental results like different movement of thoughts. One thought comes, then another thought comes, then another thought comes, and this change over time of thought can give you the sense that there is time inside the mind. On the other hand, there are other mental activities such as our emotional responses, and there are different emotional responses as well. So when one emotion comes, then the another emotion comes, then the another emotion comes, and then this chain of emotions could also give us a sense of time. Okay? So my question last time was that can you check whether in reality there are this kind of distinct different things which happen one after the other, and those distinct things which are happening one after the other are giving us a notion, a feeling of time, or whether there is one movement but we name that one movement in different ways, and that gives us a notion of time. Okay? So let's spend a few minutes on what the question actually is. You see, when you say that there are different things which are happening in the mind, then we have to understand it in a sense that those different things are kind of not connected. Okay? That the reason we call something different, or the reason we call two things different, is because they are separate. They are not connected with each other. Because if they are connected, they become the same. Okay? Then we cannot call them different. So if we are saying that the mind has these different elements, different thoughts, different emotions, okay, which come during the day one after the other, and that is actually the movement of time inside of us, the feeling of time that we feel inside of us. That is the first way of looking at it. That yes, there are distinct different aspects of the mind, there are different thoughts, there are different emotions, and they are all different, they are not connected with each other. So those different things, as they come by, as they pass by, they give us the notion or the feeling of time. The second is that there are no different things. There is one movement, which is the movement of the mind. Okay? But the same movement is been called by different names at different instances by the mind. Okay? So in the second approach, in the second hypothesis, we are suggesting that the mind has one movement instead of having different aspects, different movements. We are saying it's only one movement, but the same movement, as it moves, it is called by different names by the mind itself, because the same movement comes with different patterns. Okay? So what we are trying to say here is that when the movement of the mind is one way, we call it happiness, for example, one emotion. And when the same movement turns the other way, we can call it being angry. So intrinsically, it is the same movement, but it has a different aspect to it. It has a different, so as to say, a different feel to it. And that is why the mind calls it with a new name. Okay? I hope I am able to convey this. So imagine you have a clay ball, okay, a clay, the children clay, the child clay, and it comes in your hand as a sphere, and then you start playing with it, and there are a few dents here and there, and then you start calling it something else because now the shape is different. Then you play more, and now the shape is different, and then you give it another name. Okay, so the same clay ball, the same clay, or even was first of all a sphere, then it became something else, then it became something else. So from one way, someone could say a change has happened. Okay, these are three different things because we've given them three different names. Shape 1 is a sphere, shape 2 is something else, shape 3 is something else. But intrinsically, it's still the same clay taking different shapes. Okay? So in the same way, when the movement of the mind, which is the same movement, one movement, it can take different shapes, different aspects. And each aspect, each shape has been called by a different name by the mind itself, because of how the mind has been trained by culture, by society. And that itself gives a sense of time, a sense of movement. So intrinsically, from the point of view of the clay in our example, there was no change. It was still the clay in shape 1, it was still the clay in shape 2, it was still the clay in shape 3. But then there was a change in terms of the names of the shapes. So the intrinsic movement of the mind, from that point of view, there is maybe no change. And from the superficial, from the surface, it feels like there is a change because different names are given to these different patterns of the same movement. Okay? So these are the two hypotheses that we are proposing, that what could be the one, that whether it's totally different movements, one after the other, giving a feeling of time, or it's the same movement which changes its colors, changes its patterns, changes its shapes, and feels like something new is happening, but actually from the point of view of that movement, there is no change happening. So which of these two is the case in the mind? Okay? Now, the general perception of a person, the general perception of a general person, okay, is that the mind has different aspects in it. One aspect is anger, one aspect is anxiety, one aspect is this, one aspect is that. Okay? In the same way, we say we have different thoughts in our mind, because one thought thinks about my car, one thought thinks about my work, one thought thinks about my family, and so on. But the whole point that the mind misses, right? Because this is the general point of view that I have many things in my mind. My mind has so many different aspects. Okay? But what the mind usually misses is that all those aspects are actually, in a way, connected to you. Okay? There is also you in the mind to whom all these things are connected. So, because all these things are connected to you, they are also connected to each other. So, in case of our mind, we cannot say that these are totally different aspects of the mind. These are not totally different things in the mind, which are giving us the feeling of time in the mind. Because all these aspects belong to the same person, they belong to the same entity. These must be interconnected as well, because they are part of the same person's movement, they are part of the same person's life. Okay? My anger and my happiness must have a connection, because they both belong to me. Okay? So, in that way, the mind is not totally broken up, totally fragmented. It feels like it has parts, but all those parts are then together connected to the central me, whatever we call the me, the ego, the I. Okay? So, we cannot go with the hypothesis one where we say that things are totally different and they come one by one in the mind, and that's why we feel time. Okay? On close observation, you would see, or you would observe, is that there is the one central movement of the mind. Okay? And that one central movement takes different shapes, different colors, different varieties. And each shape and color and variety has been called by a different name. Okay? So, from morning to evening, I think I have mentally passed through hundreds of thoughts, thousands of thoughts, or maybe 20 to 50 emotions during the day. But on close observation, you would see all of them were the same one movement. That same one movement was turning itself into different forms and appearing as a different thing. But because we are not aware of that same movement, we are only aware of its effect on the surface. Okay? So, due to that, we feel like there are different effects on the surface, so we have different things in the mind. But actually, it's one central movement which is going on, which is taking different shapes. So, and we call those different shapes and patterns as different names, and that gives us a feeling of time. So, if you're a person who is always aware only of the surface effects, only of the effects which come on the surface, like the feeling of anger is the end effect of the whole movement of anger. The whole movement of anger actually starts somewhere totally different on close observation. But this feeling of total, full of energy, red eyes, this is the surface effect of it. Okay. Now that surface effect of anger might feel different from the surface effect of fear, for example. Okay. And that's why we call them with two different names, and we call them with two different emotions, and we say these are two different things. But actually, when you will go to the central movement of both of them, you would see that they both arise from the same movement. Just that movement takes a different shape for each of them. Okay? And if you see that if you're a person who lives because on these surface effects, who lives and focuses on the surface effects, if you are that kind of person, then for you, there will be a huge amount of change in your mind. There will be a huge amount of movement in your mind in terms of different things, because you are only being aware of the surface effect, which usually people are. And that's why you will have a strong sense of psychological time. Okay? But if you can go a little bit deeper and you can actually be aware of that central movement, which is creating all these surface effects, then from that central movement's point of view, there is no change actually. It is that one movement which is taking the same different shapes. So if you are aware of that central movement, then you would see that when you're angry, it's that movement. When you're sad, it's the same movement. When you're happy, it's the same movement. When you're anxiety, it's the same movement. So from that central movement's point of view, there is no change or time. Right? So I can say both things at the same time. I can say there is psychological time and there is also not psychological time. It all depends from which point of view you're talking about. If you're talking from the surface effects point of view, then it does feel like there are different flavors and different colors and flickers. But from the central movement's point of view, there are not any kind of changes. It's the same movement which kind of takes all these different shapes and colors and flickers. And you can be aware of that central movement. There's nothing mysterious or hidden about it. It just requires your attention, that you attend that movement. Okay? So what we're trying to say in the essence of in this third video for psychological time is that psychologically, time is not this kind of series of broken events, a series of broken things, a series of broken patterns, a series of broken colors, a series of broken thoughts, emotions, subtle events. But instead, psychologically, there is one central movement which creates all of these other surface effects. I think surface effect is a very good term here to understand it. So if you're a person who is only living with those surface effects, then you will juggle like a ball. You will first will be hit by this emotion, this thought, that thought. Things will just keep you moving all the time, because that's where you are living psychologically and centrally. But if you could be aware of that central movement, okay, if you could be aware of that movement which produces all these surface effects, then there is an immense stillness inside of you. Okay? And this stillness is not artificial. It's not self-created. Okay? And I really want to stress this, because a lot of people who have not tried meditation, who have not even thought of doing meditation, or who have done a huge amount of wrong meditations, tragedy meditations in a way, they all have their preconception. The one who has never tried will say, this is all an imagination and whatever. The one who has tried the wrong ones will say, yes, I felt it, and this and this and this. Okay? So there are traps in both situations. And to avoid those traps, I'm giving these words that this is not an imagination that you can imagine according to a guided meditation. This immense stillness is not an imagination. Okay? It's an actuality. Like it's as real as the grass in front of me, as the birds, as those stones. Okay? So if you are imagining this immense stillness by some guided meditation, by some other things, and you think you are not imagining it, but because it's so subtle, it's so fragile that it gets disturbed very easily. It's so easy to disturb this stillness. A very slight movement of surface effects, as we said, can create a distortion, can create an illusion inside of the mind. So the one who are doing the wrong meditations can imagine it, and the ones who are not doing any meditation can say it doesn't exist. It's just bogus. Okay? So if you are honest enough to investigate, which is always my approach, that when someone puts up a hypothesis, it's our responsibility to test the hypothesis. We cannot straight away say it's all wrong. We cannot straight away say it's all right. Both are wrong approaches. The right approach usually in the field of science or in the field of rationality is to receive the hypothesis, conduct experiments, produce new amount of data on that hypothesis, and then confirm whether the proposed hypothesis was correct or incorrect. Okay? So what my request to you would be is that conduct the experiment. Start your experimental practice with the mind. Okay? Be aware of the mind in such a way that you can touch that movement without imagining that movement. That's the biggest threat here. That if you are so interested in reaching that movement, you can imagine that movement. And I don't want you to imagine that movement, then it's anyway a superficial imagined stuff. That's not what we're talking about. So we are suggesting that there is a movement which produces all these surface effects in the minds. Okay? From the point of view of the surface effects, there is time and change. From the point of view of that central movement, there is no time and change because it has never changed. Only the effects which have been created by it could be called as change. Okay? So please try to investigate it. Please try in your free time, give 10-15 minutes to yourself in the evening when you're having a walk like this. Okay? And I'm sorry, during the video today, the birds, the toads living in the pond have disturbed us a bit with their sound, but that's how it is. So start it, get interested in yourself and enter into it. And then you would see that there is a movement which produces all those movements. But don't imagine it. Okay? Don't imagine it. Don't be in a hurry to reach it. Just let it come to you. Don't push it. Your job is just to remove what is the false. That's it. Remove the false and let whatever the true is, it will come to you by itself, because there will be space for it to come. At the moment, you're full of so much false stuff. Okay? Remove the false. The false can be identified, the false can be recognized, you exactly know what the false is in your mind. Remove it, put it aside. And you would see whatever is the true will start flowering by itself. You don't have to do anything to invite it, to produce it. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed this video, and we will try to meet next week. Thank you.